Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the inequality in Ukraine. Uh, we will try to understand actually how this global problem relates in our own country, how we can define the inequality in Ukraine and measure it, and what is our situation comparing to the other countries in the region, in the countries of the same economic and social development, because it's important doing both, like regional comparative studies and also the same, let's say, country power or economic or social power, cultural power. And also talk a little bit about the challenges of inequality in Ukraine, its impact, and what the government could do to actually to work with this problem. So in terms of measuring, we are doing pretty the same as in the world. So we are using Gini index and take into account the present Gini index of at least of 2018 and use it for Ukraine. We can see that we are doing pretty good comparing to the other countries, and we are doing almost the one of the best data in the world. But we remember with you that actually Gini index is statistical index, so it's sometimes it's not showing the real case. So we should go inside of the country and take the real conditions to understand the conditions of inequality and the quality of this inequality. And but nevertheless, comparing with the 2000. In 2018, actually, our level of inequality was 26 or 0.26, yes, and this is practically the 2 times lower index that we have in the world, at least since 1980s. Yeah, you can see here on this chart that since 1980s, sorry, our level of inequality, world inequality started growing, and it was a little bit falling in 2010, but now it's a little bit growing once more, because this chart is rather old. But here, if you see the Ukrainian situation, so you can see that actually we never exceed more than 30% since 2000s, and actually the same story was in the 90s. So our level of inequality was, according to the Gini index, was not so high, several times lower than the classical cases of the many of states, even the developed countries. And we remember even here that this is a trouble not only for the developing countries, and actually we have here Africa and Latin America and the Caribbean America case, yes, but also United States and some of the developed countries also witness this problem of the inequality pretty higher than in Ukraine. And according to the Global Wage Report, if we compare ourselves in the same level of the economic development countries, we can see that even here we are doing better than the lower middle income, and here the data is probably for the income, yes, and here we have the wealth index. That's why they are there's a little bit different. So here we have 32, and we can see that the number of countries of the same level, yes, have much more higher level of the inequality. That means that we are performing better than the average of the lower middle income countries. But what if we compare with the Central Europe, Central and Eastern Europe, with our neighbors, and if we grab the income inequality and inequality of opportunity, we can see that Ukraine is also doing better than the average, even taking into account some of the Western European states. Yes, but if we are doing pretty good in terms of the income inequality, because you can see that above the line, this country is doing less good performance on the of the average. And here, our closest neighbors like Moldova, for example, or Georgia, or Russia, or Belarus, and other countries, maybe Turkey, yeah, here, only the Central European states are doing better here, like Poland, like Hungary, for example, like Slovakia, like Czech Republic. Yeah, but the real trouble here a little bit is with our inequality of opportunities. So we are doing much better than the same that Moldova, Armenia, Turkey, for example, and even Estonia. But at the same period of time, we have pretty the same as in Hungary, as in Azerbaijan, and but for example, Slovakia and Poland and Slovenia, Croatia, and like more developed Italy and Germany are doing much more better. So the people can actually use the opportunity, and it's one of the prerequisites of the high human development index, like to use the possibilities that society and state created for you. So take into account, like in general picture, we can see that we are pretty in the middle. And our status here in the middle is actually showing that we don't have like the extras, both that are creating in the number of different countries. However, once more, this is statistical data, and this is not conditions. So, what we should estimate if you look inside of the inequality in Ukraine. Here, what is also important that we can see the income growth, so how we are doing better in terms of the incomes. And here, this is tremendous, awful chart for Ukraine, because you can see here that actually our income growth, average income growth, is not going up since the end of the 80s. So the same level of the growth of income before Ukraine gained independence is pretty the same as we are doing now. While the number of the states, like Poland, Armenia, Belarus, you can here see Turkmenistan. So let's even take the former Soviet republics like Belarus, Armenia, Uzbekistan. Yeah, and if you take, for example, like Lithuania, Estonia, or Azerbaijan, you can see there that while they have the different percentages of the income distribution, so this bottom 10% or 20%, or they're doing not so great, like comparing to the income growth in the G7 countries. But if you take into account like the middle in these countries, yeah, you can see that they have done a good job. So the level of the incomes is improving. And the same story if we take like the top, like top 10% or top 20%, you can see that they were performing better. So they, the majority of their society received much more better conditions than before the 90s. And this is not the story for Ukraine, unfortunately. This is not the story for Montenegro. This is not the story for Serbia. And this is not the story for Georgia or Tajikistan. So we are not doing better in terms of growth of all our countries. Yeah, but this was about the income. But what is happening here in terms of the wealth? Because we were talking, and you remember that there is a difference between income and wealth. So here we can see that even in the countries with the high Gini index of the income inequality, like for example, United States, yes, or some of the African countries or Latin American countries. Nevertheless, they still perform not so bad in terms of the wealth. So the median wealth per adult, they have pretty higher. And here you can easily differentiate like the rich countries that we have in our world. So the North American and the Western European and Central European to some extent, also Australia and New Zealand. But here, take into account Ukraine, the situation is not so optimistic. So we are doing pretty the same as Russia. We are doing pretty the same as the Latin America. We are doing to some extent a little bit better than the total Africa. But if we take numbers, if we compare the European numbers, we can see that unfortunately Ukraine is the lowest, had the lowest data of the wealth per of the adult from the old European continent. So even Moldova, for example, that is considered to be one of the underdeveloped countries in Europe, even lesser than Ukraine, they're doing a little bit better. And it's definitely because this is a story of the total wealth, and actually the number of the people who live in the country, the citizens of the country influences. So we are a pretty big country with the big amount of citizens, but unfortunately we are not doing the total wealth of the country. But actually this is not only the reason because we have a lot of people. Yes, you can see like the small countries like Luxembourg or the countries like Switzerland or like Belgium or Ireland, they have pretty the same number of population as, for example, Ireland has the same, pretty the same number of population as Kyiv. Yes, but they're doing much more better. So this is actually the quality, the richness of the country. And if we take here group, actually we should not compare ourselves with the other neighbors. This is one of the strategic tasks to do this. But what we can do here is actually compare ourselves with the majority of the African state. So you can see here that we are doing lesser than Suriname, Senegal, Ghana, or Ethiopia, or Tanzania. And we're doing a little bit better than Djibouti, Nigeria, Cameroon. We are only doing twice better than Afghanistan, and a little bit, and almost 1.7, probably 1.5 times better than Syria, that is living in conflict. So actually the wealth inequality is the tremendous problem in Ukraine. And you remember that wealth, this is our ownership. So everything that we own, like houses, different property, horses, cars, computers, smartphones, and everything that have a price and that we can calculate. So here, the very clear, not estimation, but the fact is that unfortunately, we are equal to some extent, but very poor countries. So we are equal in our in being poor. That is actually one of the most important strategic challenges for our country. And here, if you look deeply into the construction of inequality in Ukraine, actually, if you take into account the income story in Ukraine, you can see that we have pretty large group of people who identified themselves as they could not afford the basics other than the food. There is also a group of people who could not afford food. And this is one of the tremendous problem in terms of the general, the development of the country. So this is pretty large number. So, but it's Ukrainian state statistics services. So UN is given a little bit smaller. If I'm not mistaken, it's 3.5, but still this is a large number of the group. So you can see that the 50% of our country are in the middle. Yeah, so they are satisfied, but they did not have like the major savings or any savings. And this was proven actually by the COVID data, because the first months of the quarantine, there was a very big research, and people were asked, so respondents were asked, so how many money they have to stay at home without work. And the majority of the country, it was almost 70% of the country, if I'm not mistaken, said actually that they have savings only for 1 or 2 months. So that simply means that they don't have the income or wealth opportunity to do savings. And to be here, remember the general logic of the getting out of inequality issues, that we should increase our savings, and we should be able to actually to give as a heritage, yes, this actually our savings to the next generations. And only 7.8% said that they have enough savings. Yes, they're rich enough to the lifestyle that they do to earn money. And here, if you go to the statistic, you can see that 7.5% have, in average, yes, they have in average up to from 8,000 to 10,000 of hryvnias, and this is considered like the middle. Yes, this is something that we can call in Ukraine the middle class, and actually the amount of middle class, it's usually considered to be influencing in general the development of the country. So only 50%, let's say, of so-called middle class have a salary that is more than 22,000 of Ukrainian hryvnias. That is lesser than 1,000 of UN dollars. So it's pretty, I think, 800 of US dollars. So that's mean that in average 50% are not even doing 800 of US dollars. So comparing to the other states, that's mean that our middle class is also unfortunately poor. And here, there are some inequality hypotheses in Ukraine. So it's not the reasons, but actually the hypothesis, why it's coming in Ukraine. And many people believe that the results are in the shade of economy, that oligarchs are always stealing opportunities and get money for themselves. And sometimes there are also some visions that Ukrainians actually don't work hard. And this is pretty interesting cases. So let's concentrate on these issues. So if we talk about the shadow economy, so it's usually considered that indifferent, so they're not official data, yes, but according to the different estimations, we have the part of the shadow economy in Ukraine that makes approximately 40% of Ukrainian GDP. That is huge. And this is approximately more than 50 billion of US dollars. And what is shade of economy? We understand that this is money that are not paid as a taxes. But what if we take this money, if we take this shade of taxes and distribute them among different groups of people, specifically that are working in the state sector, so the state employees, let's say salaries for doctors, teachers, and more than near 3 million of the other state employees. And let's take this money and also distribute them about the all pension years that we have around 13 million of people in Ukraine. So this means that in average, individual will receive a little near 150 US dollars per month. So that is huge comparing to the, for example, to the cost that receiving people that consider themselves to be below the level of the middle class. So, but how the situation will actually influence the poverty issues or inequality issues. So in average, that means that real theoretically, our state employees, so this 3 million of people plus 13 million of people of pensioners, like almost 16 million of people that will receive this theoretical money. So they actually improve their living conditions almost in twice. And statistically, they will even reach like 1/5 of the Polish income. Yes, that is huge, because we have right now like near like 23-25% of the Polish income. But also that means that that increase in the among the other populations, yes, other population of Ukraine. So the level of their living will also increase. So they will a little bit spend more. So the state will receive new taxes, and the others will receive probably a little bit as the 50% of this 150, let's say $75 per month. And that's mean that actually the situation will not in generally improve really greater. So we will have less poor people, but it won't be tremendous salvation of the situation. So once more, the state employees receive 150 to the salary that they have, and in average they will have the salary near 300 per month, or a little bit more than 300, and the other people will receive like $70 per month, and that was not tremendously improve the overall situation. And here we should state that actually the shade of economy is still present. This is a tremendous problem, but just getting money from the shade of economy and putting them into taxes, it will not solve this problem. The other case is about the oligarchs. Still, this is the case of the social equality, yes, and the social fairness. And we are talking usually in terms of inequality, even economic inequality, but we usually mean sometimes the social fairness, yes, because it's one of the important parts in the social sciences. But actually, if you take the wealth of the 50 richest people in Ukraine and compare them with US and Russia, we can see that, in terms of Ukrainian society, so we have almost like the up to 50% of the money that are located in their health of the country, and 50% of the money that are of the wealth, sorry, that are concentrated in the wealth of the others. So this is all statistic. Really, you can see here it's 2010. So I took it from the one research. Actually, in the work cited after the presentation, you can see some extra materials that you can use if you're interested in the topic. But this is actually the tendency, because even right now we are not doing better. So the situation was not changed tremendously. But here, if you compare, for example, with Russia or with USA, where they have much more higher level of the inequality, yeah, we can see that these 50 rich people, they actually have the much more lower number of the public wealth. That's simply mean that once more we are not so rich, and these costs, they are indeed in the hands of the few people. But actually, if we come to the real GDP per capita and see the overall situation in Ukraine, you can see that with even if rich oligarchs, they have these costs. Yes, they were the same falling as all the country during the crisis times. So, and we can see that they were not keeping the situation, even statistical situation, much more better. So we can see directly this falls. This means that rich people, they go down, and definitely the poor people, they also went down even more than the rich people. That actually was not happening in the other countries. So that's mean that the greater the upper level of the public health that is concentrated in the hands of the majority of people indeed is helping the situation, because once more, that's to some extent it's ridiculous. Then 50 people actually have the almost 50% of the health that we have. So we should state that here, this is one of the trouble that we have. The third factor was considering that we are not working properly, so that we are lazy, we are not working so much comparing to the other countries that actually spend a lot of time on their work. And if we take the OECD statistic and compare the OECD countries, we can see, no, we are working a lot. We are actually working a little bit more than Greece and Russia, and almost the same as Koreans are doing. And you can see here that is the average annual working hours. That's pretty a lot. That's the huge number of the hours that are spent for work, and the majority of the developed societies are working not so much. So please compare with the Germany or Denmark or Norway, where the life working balance is much more better. So we are working a lot in that case. However, the major problem here is the quality of work. And if we also grab here the statistic, we can see that unfortunately, Ukrainian productivity of work that is really low, one of the lowest in the world. So it's 3 times lower than in Poland. It's 7 times, you see, smaller than in the United States or Norway. It's almost 2 times lower than in the developed countries of the Western Europe. And here, that simply means that we spend too much time of working, but actually it's not bringing the the results in terms of the GDP. And there are different estimations of this point. And actually, if you take the global competitiveness report, that simply means that Ukrainians produce approximately $5 value per working hour. While, for example, the Americans, they produce like more than $11 or even $12 per working hour. And this is one also of the tremendous problem, that our productivity, the level of actually bringing our job into the results is increasingly low. So here lies one of the solutions, actually. So we should increase our working productivity. There are also a lot of discussions in terms of motivation, because why you're working not so good, because sometimes you don't have the good motivation. And but actually I didn't find the great statistic from here, only like some of the estimations, but in general so analytics, they evaluated that we are not doing bad in terms of the motivation. So the motivation is pretty the same, and it's awful in the majority of the countries. So we are doing a little bit lesser motivation to work than, for example, with the more developed countries, but it's not. So it's it's like statistically lesser, so it's not influence in general too much of the situation. So we can see that actually shade of economy, yes, partly there is a problem, but not to the major extent. So oligarchs, indeed. So the wealth that are considered in the hands of the few people, there is a real problem in Ukraine. And in terms of the productivity, yeah, productivity is one of the greatest challenges, and motivation plays a role, but partly a role. So actually, if we talk about the productivity, we can see that this is a quality of work that we are doing. And unfortunately, if you compare it with the industry distributions, we can see that in the majority of the cases, even in terms of the international export, where our businesses are concentrated on the raw materials. So our work is mainly in general, because we have high tech and developed industries like IT industry, like machinery, yes, okay. But in general, if we take this data, we are concentrated on the raw materials, and we are concentrated of how to buy something and then sell something. And that means that we do not require actually the skilled and professional workers in the majority of the cases. And this is one of the troubles, that even business is not interested to invest too much of doing this productivity better. Okay, but what if we take the actually inequality overall? Have people see this this trouble in Ukraine? And you can see that actually economy matters a lot, and these factors matters a lot. So I present you the the Center of Social Monitoring data that was so this poll was done, if I'm not mistaken, in June or July this year, so it's really fresh data. And you can see that these are the issues that Ukrainians identify of the great importance. So number 5, there is red, it's of great importance. And you can see, while the solution of the Ukrainian conflict with Russia on the eastern part of Ukraine, southern part in Crimea, is of great importance, so it's number 1. But then all the other issues that receive, like, let's say, more than 4.2, and that concentrated more than 50% of the attention of people that respond to this poll, are actually challenges of the economic reason. So this is economic decline here, then inflation and the growth of prices, tariffs and bills growth, job opportunity losses and job losses, impoverishment, and at the same time the growth of the income of oligarchs. Here I just translated a few positions, and tax growth, yes, and the social injustice. So all these factors are really deeply connected with the economic reason. So to the major extent, we can say that by now, do a little short follow-up, that the major character of Ukrainian inequality is basically of the economic reason. And yeah, it's so strange that according to the data, many of the data, we are equal societies, but no, we are all equal in being poor. And this is one of the, as I told, the major challenges. And it's actually influenced a number of the social problems. And I will only stress on the level of the populism that is growing right now in Ukraine, and many of the countries, many of the Ukrainian parties, even if they are not populistic, they simply, to some extent, they're using this populistic rhetorics. And here the famous Ukrainian meme, political meme as impoverishment, that is in Ukrainian zuboženia, yes, is used by some of the parties. And the famous, here is a cartoon about the Tymoshenko, Yulia Tymoshenko, the leader of the bloc of Yulia Tymoshenko, that was using this term, this impoverishment term as the key word in her propaganda on the, at least last in previous elections. So here, but by showing this contradiction, so political parties usually show they gained the support of people, but we understand clearly that this is rather populistic rhetorics. But nevertheless, take into account the importance of the problems that people actually state. Yes, that this is serious problems for them. There is no strange than some of the populistic parties actually get support. So yeah, but it also, this inequality is also being influenced by the other situation. So it's like the cause of the many of the other troubles, but also it is a result sometimes of the many of the other trouble. So I'll just focus on the two issues, the gender inequality and of the age inequality, but you can find many more. For example, like inequality in education, inequality in terms of the rural and village citizens, inequality of the people with special needs, and so on and so forth. So there are so many topics where inequality plays an important part, but I'll just focus on two of them because they're pretty important. The gender inequality, it's not because it's a trendy thing, but actually this shows how women that could play an important part in the Ukrainian economy are losing this part, because inappropriate conditions and these gender sometimes stereotypes that we can see. Because usually often in Ukrainian families, when you have the average situation, when the when male men, yes, they earn more. That means that, for example, in terms of the childcare, women usually stay at home. So, and they are actually spending their labor, yes, spending their power to grow children rather than putting into the economy and producing some goods and services. And to some of the major extents, it was one of the biggest troubles in the 90s. Yes, that was considered of the women as the traditional part of staying at home and growing children, that they were not contributing to the overall economic development of the country. So now the situation is changing, luckily, but nevertheless, you can see here the UNDP statistics of the shares actually of men and women in the management and the top management positions. So the new data and situation is really improving. So we can see more and more women are becoming like the managers of the top managers of the companies. That there is good, so they can actually use this potential. And once more, one of the important issues is not only about the potential, but the participation. So they can participate equally and contribute equally. So we are not losing like the power of the humans. So we are not losing the important part of the labor power in the production and of the country. Well, for example, still you can see that if you take the individual entrepreneurship, yeah, we almost have the same pretty equal position, a little bit men, 54%, but nevertheless it's pretty equal. And comparing with the 90s, it's a dramatical fall in terms of the gender inequality. Actually, we will talk a little bit about the SDGs of Sustainable Development Goals, and one of the issues is gender inequality, and Ukraine is performing pretty good there. So this society is transforming into in that scale. But if we take the legal entities, for example, so I mean, companies like big business, small and medium business, or not the individual, you can see here the majority are actually men. So of the management, of the middle and top management are men. So still in the corporate sector, yeah, we can state that the situation is not overall improving. What is also interesting here, if you compare villages and cities, so you can see here that in the big cities where we have the population more than 1 million of people, the majority are actually men. So, and they are the major part of the management in the companies. But for example, if you take the smaller villages or even smaller cities or even villages, you can see that we have mostly women, especially as the individual entrepreneurs, and that is mainly connected with Ukrainian bazaar, or let's say the trade sector, when the private entrepreneurs, yes, the market, so they simply are engaged into these activities. What if we see the situation overall in Ukraine? You can see that there are some of the regions with the bigger participation of the women. For example, if you take like Khmelnytsky, once more, market, villages. If you take south of Ukraine, the same story. If you take the eastern part of Ukraine, I don't know the reason here, but I do believe there is something sometimes that should be connected actually with the conflict, because I do believe that the majority of men are somehow engaged into the, since this is statistic of 2018, and they engage in the conflict, so there is a place for women actually to do the activities. And once more, this all data is not because of the, let's say, good life, yes. So this is the acts and participation that was caused simply because of need. So they're doing this because this is a need, and such Ukrainian paradox that are happening in terms of the inequality. So if we compare by the sector, we can see that we have specifically male sectors like information communication, manufacturing, transportation, agriculture, construction, yes, and the only dominant women, let's say, sector is education. And to some major extent, this is awful, because once more, we should seek for the equal opportunities, and yeah, and that's what at least we have here. But in general, in the other sectors, we can see pretty the same, almost the same percentage of the women and men participation of as a manager. So this is not the total participation. One more, we are talking about the management of the companies, or like individual entrepreneurship. So yeah. But what is here? What about salaries? Yes, if we take the global wage report, we can see that comparing with the other countries, yeah, we have this inequality in terms of wages, in terms of salaries, and especially that is in the case of people when they have 20 years old to 29 years old, and then this disproportion is fallen a little bit, and comparing with the same countries of the same economic performance as we can state that the situation is not so bad. So better situation have Vietnam, and but look here, what is interesting, they have the participation percent even more of the elder. Yeah, and for example, the same story with Mongolia and the Indonesia. So the gender, like the inequality is high there, but also the participation level of people is higher. But we are doing much more better, like comparing with the number of these countries. But let's be clear. So this is not all the economic reasons. So a lot of these countries are traditional societies. So this is the main reason of such wage inequality. So let us look here once more. you see here Ukraine, and you can say that pretty the same. So the gap is not, is really not so high. And here, even here, we have sometimes of the salaries, you have probably mostly the um, the, um, the gap. I mean the age gap. Yes, the age gap even more than the gender gap. So here you can see here how the older and younger population is earning money. Yes, so the huge gap here, even more than the gender gap. So yeah, and that actually influence a number of social troubles, and I just promised to focus on the discrimination issues. Indeed, that what is happening, and this is one of the outcomes of the inequality in Ukraine. So this is sorry for Ukrainian here, but that's actually the poll that was conducted by the in 2016. So it's an older one, but I think that the situation was not changing dramatically, and it was done by the Ilko Kucherev Center, so the sociology company, together with the UNDP, and here you can actually see that. Here, the red line, this is percentage of all the respondees, and the orange line, this is percentage of people who respond that they witnessed this trouble. So, and according to the general perception of Ukrainians, the age inequality is considered to be one of the tremendous problems. And once more, I do believe this because even here on the official data with wages, you can see that, yeah, we have this disproportion. And here people are stating that there is a discrimination in terms of the age, and usually it's connected with the discrimination of work. So it's much more harder for the younger, or especially of the older, to get a pretty good job, or even to get job. Also, we can see the people are reflecting the special needs. Yes, if you have a person with special needs, you also face these troubles, and yeah, and the gender, you see, it's not comparing to the other issues, it's not so high. And but in general in Ukraine, so the 15% of people are stating yes, that this is like their perception of the discrimination, and percentage of those who say yes, that we were witnessing this situation, so 34%, and it's pretty huge. It's pretty huge, and they are stating that the problem is to some extent. So here in Ukraine, yeah, they're stating that the problem is to some extent a major. So overall, let's say 58, almost 60% of people are stating that yes, discrimination, different kinds of discrimination matter here in Ukraine, and this also the tough situation here. So what is done? So what is done here in Ukraine in order to solve this? Once more, I will stop here on the Sustainable Development Goals, because Ukraine is a part of this obligation. And actually, in 2017, we fixed one of the targets and indicators within this Sustainable Development Goal number 10. I mean, this UN Sustainable Development Goal, and we have very clear indicators what we would like to see and to have in 2020 and then 2030. Like this is the year when we believe that we will come to the good results. So we can see that there are a number of indicators in the state levels. It simply means that to some extent these are KPIs that are showing how we get into some position. And what we are doing to succeed in this sphere, we are actually changing our legislation, starting different programs. And here the SDG, the national SDG performance is one of the best actually methodological ways to see what we are doing, because we were planning 2015, and then we can see how what are results, how we come to these results. So you can see that through these indicators, there are different, yes. So the access to the social services, and usually these are percentages of people who have access. So we can just stop the video and see a little bit clearly what these targets mean, yes, as access to social services, then remuneration, for example, policies, yes, insurances, and then growth of the income of people. You can see what actually are the indicators that we are using. And in your readings, you have this report, so you can see the numbers, and you can even compare Ukrainian numbers with the other countries. But if you take this greater goal of reduce inequality, unfortunately, I should state that we are moving here not so good. We are badly moving here. So this SDG number 10, like beating the inequality, is considered to be one of by Ukrainian government to be one of the accelerating SDG. That means that having good performance in this goal, it will influence all the other performance, all the other goals. So overall situation. And you look here in the majority of the SDGs, Ukrainian state declares that we have small probability to reach the numbers that we were planning in 2017. And only like the target 10.51. So if you look here, this is a ratio of average pension to average wage in the country, given 35 years of contribution that is growing, and that's mean that until 2030 we think that we can achieve this goal. All the other targets have very low movement, or there is a great probability that they will not be met. So that simply means that in terms of the overall country development, we are not solving the basics of the social needs, and that simply means that this our inequality as a major issue will still be a matter in our country. And that is also a ridiculous situation. So what could be done? What could be done in this situation? What as a government should do here? We can state, yes, that despite inequality, that is a complex phenomena. In Ukrainian case, it's deeply connected with the economic factors. And you can see this. So everything is common with the, probably with the inequality in incomes. And the major trouble here is also the inequality that is hidden in terms of the wealth. This disproportion of, and actually, absentees of the good possibilities to accumulate wealth. This is one of the major factors that are pushing all the other factors playing in Ukraine. So what government actually can do? So it can do, broadly speaking, two ways. To lift people and a little bit to improve the situation. So the first one is to take from the extremely rich and to give to extremely poor. That is called the redistribution. So the Robin Hood approach, yes. And usually it's done by taxes. It's usually done by the social support, by pensions, by different subsidies, and other compensations. And the other logical way is actually to foster general economic growth and create these opportunities of the economic growth that will be equal for everyone, both for rich and for poor. And this growth is usually inclusive, so and it should create opportunities for everyone to benefit from it, not only extremely rich. So, and the distribution approach usually makes sense when there are really poor and really rich. So it's virtually, if virtually, yes, everybody is poor, then the only way forward is the economic growth. And we can see in our society that the majority of cases we are not so rich, so we don't have this too many extremes of the great part of society that is really, really poor and the great part of society that is really, really rich. Why not? Because we will have the inequality index, Gini index, extremely high. We have the tremendous part of the society that is poor or low rich, yes, so to the greater extent that they're not rich enough. And only a few people, this oligarch type society, that are extremely rich. So virtually, it makes no sense like to do the redistribution. But here even comes the Ukrainian paradox, because Ukraine is actually heavily using this redistribution approach. That is coming from the Soviet times, where it's very socially oriented, and the state was obliged like to actually to make everyone equal but poor, yes, rather than create the equal opportunities. And the social support in the largest part is actually the largest part of the contemporary Ukrainian budget. And yeah, and if the official statistic put Ukraine amongst the least unequal countries in the world as measured by the Gini index. Yes, but if this is true, so the residual distribution approach is not the, as I told, it's not the actually the remedy. And this seems that this approach should be killed as soon as possible, should be abandoned by the government, and we actually should focus on creating the opportunities both for everyone, for very fast and very sustainable economic development for all the group of people. And there is redistribution approach where if it could be used, it should be used probably of lifting people with extreme poverty, who can't afford in no way like to create themselves the opportunity of social and economic developments. And that simply means that a government should create a number of different criteria, probably the internationally based, what UN or UNDP consider to be extreme poverty, and then to create the specific targeted help to such families or to such people, like to provide them better opportunities for education, for being more professional, for receiving a little bit greater access to capital, and to make their self-employment better, rather than spend money like to make them poor from the extreme poor. And all the other cases probably will not work in the Ukrainian society, because we simply see that this is a structure of our country. So yeah, so what follow up in that terms we can do? So the first thing, yes, we should change our approaches. Yes, that is really important. Rather than spend money to support ourselves on the lowest level, we should invest money into the people growth. And this is very important. Why this is important? Because Ukraine has both the social and economic character of the inequality, but mainly the major reason here lies indeed in the economic character of our country. So in every case, we are relatively equal, but poor country, and this should be taken into consideration. And as we see, the major problem is actually wealth inequality, and that is not helping ourselves to save money, to accumulate money, and to prosper from this money, and also to give this money to the future generations. So poverty in Ukraine depends at a small part of the shadow economy, but actually getting money, all money from the shadow economy and simply distribute it will not create the major difference. Once more, you should invest into the growth rather than spend to actually to fix the situation, what we are doing right now. One of the major problems is with the labor quality. And here we should take into account that the productivity of other people, the possibility to produce more, is increasingly, it's really important. And here it's not only about the labor that is a part, but the other part of the story is actually the type of economy what we are working in. And with the economy that is based on the raw materials, that is raw materials oriented economy that requires low qualified jobs for producing some goods, or low qualified jobs for producing some services, as in the market, simply buy and sell. It does not create the possibility of people to grow, to invest into themselves, and to invest into their education. That is why we probably see such great level of the migrants, of the labor migrants that are actually going from Ukraine, and they don't want to come back because they simply even don't see the opportunity here to invest like their costs because of the orientation of our economy. So that simply means that we should once more invest into the areas when the people quality, the labor quality will be required, and where the labor quality will cost more in the terms of the building of the price of services and goods. And what impact? We have everything there is classical in terms of the inequality. So we have decreased number of national income. That simply means you see that GDP per capita, we are one of the lowest countries comparing with the countries. We're doing a little bit better than the countries that have very serious ongoing conflicts that are crushing all the country. We also have the ongoing conflict. It should be taken into consideration. It's limiting a little bit us, but we should do a lot of things, yes, to actually to invest into these parts that to some extent can lift ourselves. We see the creation of the monopolies or the oligarchic society, and once more, now I think a little bit lesser than 50%, but almost to the 40% of the all Ukrainian wealth is situated in the hands of the few persons, and other have no possibility to grow so much. So this is a tremendous problem. Social polarization, because indeed all the data are showing that economic fairness, social fairness are important issues for Ukrainians. They see that the situation is unfair. They see that they don't have the possibilities and and they don't have these opportunities to grow, and then simply kills their motivation. Even we have better opportunities comparing, for example, with Moldova or with Georgia, yeah, but the people perception is what is running economy and the social factors. And here we have a trouble. And this, the outcome of this is simply the growth of populism that is happening, and the interest in thinking the solutions, very fast solutions that simply bring money as soon as possible, rather than to accumulate this wealth in the long but very stable perspective. And also discrimination issues. Yes, one of the impacts is discrimination issues, because once more, labor that is interested to get the job will discriminate the other people who will not produce, for example, the same. So that simply the reason is in the that we're still poor. And yeah, these are the tremendous, as you see, the problem in Ukraine. So and Ukraine is one of the best case have the Gini index that are widely used, showing the very equal society, but still the quality of this Gini's inequality in Ukraine is really awful. So all the troubles are hidden within these numbers that are showing good performance of Ukrainian society. So let's concentrate on that. Let's study that. Let's think how we can develop Ukraine better and make our country much more richer and gather this wealth to actually to invest into the good solutions, but expensive solutions. So that's what I have for inequality in Ukraine for you. These are the few materials that you can also concentrate on. So let's stay on this topic and let's discuss it on a class. So thank you and see you.